here on The Conversation Hour on 774 ABC Melbourne, ABC Victoria and the Beth Wilson, Victoria's Health Services Commissioner, is my co-host. Our first guests, Professor Dan Kiana and Professor Mike Tall. We're now all joined by Lucy Burns, who's a 40-year-old Melbourne GP with a quite unique story to tell of her own health battles, not just those of her patients, and the world at large, as we have a look at World Health Day, which is being celebrated around the globe tomorrow. Lucy, welcome to The Conversation Hour.
Thanks, John.
Tell us your story.
Well, I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy when I was 19, which was not a big surprise. It's in my family. So, you know, when symptoms came along, I guess we just trotted along and got the confirmation. And to tell you the truth, initially I didn't really give two hoots about it. My dad had it. He seemed to be fine. A few other people in my family had it. I've got a specific version called FSHD, which stands for facioscapulohumeral dystrophy.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Wow. And that sort of translates to face, shoulder, arm is the sort of layman's term for it. Although,
what symptoms did you first experience?
Well, I can't raise my arms above my head, so I used to lie on the bed to do my ponytail, and I thought everyone did that. Mm-hmm. It was only really once I went to medical school that I thought, oh, everyone else can do different things. And that was really the main symptom, brushing my hair, and you know, I got out of hanging out the washing, so that was always good. Mm-hmm. And then really through all my 20s, it barely bothered me, I think would be a good way to put it. I did everything. I went to aerobics at uni, I ran, I was very active.
Emotionally, psychologically, it didn't bother you?
No, because I just assumed, you know, you're 20, you're fine, you know, you're invincible.
I remember that.
Yeah. So no,
just the other day.
Really, no, didn't even give two hoots about it. Mm-hmm. And then probably, in fact, still didn't give two hoots about it until I was about 32, and after I had my first child, when I really noticed a big deterioration. And I went from being able to go hiking through Kings Canyon, which I did when I was about 6 weeks pregnant, to then after she was born, I realised there was quite a significant drop, and it took me a while to work out what was going on, and I realised walking when stuff was a little bit trickier, and I felt still like I was pregnant, you know, I still had the waddle. And so I went back to the neurologist, who I hadn't seen for 15 years or whatever, and said, you know, what's with this waddle? And he said, oh, you know, you've got muscular dystrophy, what do you expect? So I sort of felt like a bit of I went, oh, okay. And so, you know, then I just went, right, good, that's enough of that, I don't want to talk about that again. And so I just forgot about it again and just ignored it as much as I could.
Would you give that advice to a patient if they came to you with the same symptoms?
No, doctors are the worst patients. They're terrible, and I'm a terrible patient, absolutely terrible. I don't do anything I'm told. But that's, I think, part of coping too is denial, and it's a lovely...
Or part of not coping, yeah.
Oh, no, it's a great coping mechanism at some stages, and I think I did a very good job of coping with denial for probably up until Ella. I was pregnant with Ella, so that was the last 5 years, which is when really I could no longer hide under the cloak of denial, and I had to sneak out and face what was going on.
And how do you do that?
Well, I needed quite a few people to tell me to do it, so I guess once I got that happening, and look, this is not something I woke up overnight and went, right, well, I'm fine now with it, I'm coping. It was a long process, I guess, you know, you grieve for what your future should have been like and coping with things like that. But at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do about this. I just have to deal with it. So I can't do anything to change the course other than keep healthy. So, you know, I try not to eat too much chocolate, which is tricky. I don't smoke. I try to keep in a healthy weight range. You know, I keep my mind busy. I used to do exercise, but I found I was getting too tired, and I couldn't then do my normal, you know, jobs in the day. So yeah, you do that, and you try and look at things, because recently, you know, I think the biggest defining moment for me was getting the disabled parking permit, because I so didn't want to be disabled, and I thought that's what that meant. Once you had a parking permit that says you're disabled, well, then you are. And then it occurred to me after a while, after several people said, you know, it would be so nice to have parking right out the front of Safeway.
They get all the best spots.
Yeah. So I thought, right, okay, so I did it. And now I'm like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. I've got the golden ticket. I'm just hooning in.
My husband was a bit like that with his seniors card. He did not want a seniors card, but now he loves it.
Yeah. And really that's what you can do. You just look at it as tools to help you. You know, much as you wouldn't try baking a cake without... You know, you could whip it by hand, or you can use you know, your Mixmaster, I can park down the end of the parking lot, or I can use my permit to park up the front.
Where does the positive outlook that's such a key to your response to your particular disability, where does it come from? How do you get that? Because a lot of people with an identical state of physical ailment wouldn't have your approach to it.
Look, I think there's a bit of it that's personality driven. I've always tried to be reasonably positive, but having said that, I've certainly had down days where you know, you can turn your whole life into a negative. And I think a couple of years ago, a good friend of mine died 2 weeks after having her baby. And she had said to me once, she'd gone trekking in Nepal, and she'd said to me, "Oh, Luce, you know, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to go trekking, because, you know, I remember when we used to go together and now you can't go, and, you know, I rejoice in every day," and blah, blah, blah. And then I look at her, and she's died, and I'm now the one rejoicing in every day. So, you know, you can use people around to help inspire you for that sort of thing.
I have a friend who's got multiple sclerosis, which I can hardly say.
That's right. Muscular dystrophy is also very hard to say. I don't know why.
And she can't move at all now, but whenever I call her, it's usually to tell her that one of our old crowd has died.
Yeah.
And invariably she says to me, "Ha ha, I've outlived another one."
I know, and that's really, it helps. I think it really helps to try and be as positive as that.
Do you put on a show, though, when you're out and about? Are you different when you're on your own, or...
Look, I'm not always this happy. I can be grumpy, and my kids will tell you that I'm grumpy because, you know, I'm yelling at them to get in the car on the way to school and all that sort of stuff.
You're not the perfect mum.
Not possible. Not possible to be a perfect parent.
And my house is a tip, and we eat tin spaghetti, and, you know. But I've always been pretty driven, and I guess part of having something like this is I want to show my kids that you can do whatever you put your mind to, that your mind is actually your biggest limiting factor in a lot of